Let's talk about some holsters. I know I've got a bunch of guns out here, but that's just for demonstration purposes. We're going to talk about holsters. I get more questions about holsters. I've had more complaints, problems, frustrated, pissed off people over holsters than probably anything else. You know, trying to buy custom holsters for specific things, or it doesn't fit right, or doesn't feel right, or whatever. So I've tended to, and I'm the same way. You know, I want something to fit right. I want it to feel right. I want it to be able to carry the gun correctly and draw well and all that stuff. But I've kind of got to the point over the years where it's gotten simpler for me, and Safariland and Bianchi have made that simple for me. I'm not sponsored by them or nothing. You know, I'm not shilling for them. I'm just showing you, after trying so many different holsters over the years and different systems, I've just found something that works good. So we're going to talk about that. So what we got here is your basic leather holster. This is, you know, the old school, what everybody used to carry their guns in, and they're great. You know, I still carry leather holsters here and there every once in a while for certain guns. You know, can't not carry this gun. This is like my 4th of July holster here. You know, it's a 1911 holster. Got my old 1911 right here, and you know, fits like a glove in there. It's beautiful. It fits perfectly. What it also does is it doesn't have a strap or anything on it. It doesn't have some little, you know, button or snap that you got to pull to get the gun out of the holster. It's simply held in there by the friction, and you can see even without it on my belt, there's friction holding this thing in there. It wants to stay in there. When you put this on a belt and it pulls these tabs back, it pulls these loops back, it puts even more tension on here. So when you draw a gun out of one of these leather holsters, you have to do it deliberately. And by deliberately, I mean you got to put a little bit of oomph into it to make sure that the gun comes out. Now, normally it's going to come out just fine, but sometimes, depending on how your body's twisted and how the holster's twisted and whatnot, it'll stick in there pretty good. And if you don't yank it properly, you're going to go try and pull your gun out. And I've seen people throw the gun. I've seen people completely miss the gun. They go to draw it and they don't have a good grip on it, and the gun stays in the holster. Or you'll get a good grip on it and pull it out, and maybe it's perfect, or sometimes your grip just won't be right. You know, you'll go to grab it, and when you pull it out, maybe you're just not holding it the way you want to hold it. You know, it's just in an uncomfortable spot. But all of that goes to say, or I say that to get to the point of leather holsters worked, and they were great, but there's better stuff you can get. You know, there are better holsters than leather. Leather's not the perfect holster choice. Okay, you can do something like, well, here, this is a different leather. This is, I think this is shark skin or something. It's the same thing. This is a fancy Wilson Combat holster. I mean, this is, I don't know, some ridiculously expensive Wilson Combat thing, but it's just leather. This is somebody tactical. I think it's Viking tactical or something. I don't know, but it's not marked for 1911. I can tell it's a 1911 just because of the indent for the safety and whatnot. This is a 1911 holster, but mark your holsters, people. There's no markings on this thing. You know, this one, at least it says 1911 on it. So if for some reason you reach into a drawer and pull out a holster, you can tell what it is. These holsters, one of the great things about leather is they're real quiet. You know, your clothing doesn't make any noise rubbing against them or anything, and if you bump into something, it doesn't make any noise. That they tension themselves and you don't have to have some kind of clasp on it is really nice. Keep in mind also, this only fits one gun. You know, like this little thing, this is set up for 1911, but you know, here's my 1911, and gee, it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit because this is a 5-inch, and this holster is set up for a 4 1/4 inch. It's a shorter gun, so I could put a 4 1/4 in this 5-inch holster, but I can't put a 5-inch in this 4 1/4 holster. So they can be pretty picky. And we also have things like this. This is also a 1911 holster. It's one of those Blade Techs. This is set up for Surefire. You can see it because right on the back here I put railed 1911 Surefire. So this gun, without the light on it, it doesn't fit right, and it also doesn't have a rail. So you got to have the correct holster for the gun when it comes to most things. You know, they're not real flexible. And historically, holsters have not been real flexible. You got to get the right holster for the right gun, which is why guys like me that have been doing gun stuff most of my life, you end up with just drawers full of these things. And they're not worth anything after you buy them. You know, I mean, if you're lucky, you know, give it away to a buddy who has the same thing, or sell it for $10 or something. But I mean, these are, I don't know, these $100 or more than $100 for this thing when it was new. But it's an investment that pays off if you carry the gun in the holster on a regular basis. But if you buy it and it doesn't fit right, or it doesn't feel right, or the gun doesn't stay in it correctly, or it's hard to draw, any number of things, you know, it's just money down the drain. And that's why people tend to get a little frustrated and angry about holsters, I think. Then we come to stuff like this. This is traditional Kydex holster. These were basically first made for competition shooters because there's no tension in here from the Kydex, from the plastic. Kydex is just fancy plastic. These things hold the gun just fine. We actually, we jokingly call these gun buckets because it's basically a plastic bucket you throw your gun in. But when the gun gets in there, you know, it's holding it okay. There's a little bit of tension from these two little screws right here. They're pushing on some pieces of rubber, and those rubber are pushing the clamshell together, holding the gun good. So it works okay. I mean, the gun's not going to fall out. You can loosen these, and it will fall out, but for the most part, it holds it okay. I mean, I wouldn't go jogging with it or go hiking with it or anything, but it holds it okay. It holds it good enough to keep it in your holster while you're at the range at a competition. And the gun comes out very easily. There's nothing to manipulate. There's nothing to do. You grab the gun, it comes right out. Okay. These are also kind of noisy. That's one of the things leather guys will complain about is they hate these plastic holsters because either they don't like plastic or they don't like it makes noise, or they'll come up with some other argument against it. You know. But they do serve their purposes. You know, there is a place for these things. And then we're going to get to what's my favorite. And that's going to be this Safariland GLS system. And GLS is grip lock system, and it's a good name. It is appropriate. This one, the Safariland mark your stuff, but I guess Safariland have a hard time marking their stuff because this fits so many different guns. I've just kind of put a note on here to myself with a paint pen, M&P, P07, Glock, etc. So we got an M&P here. Oh gee, what do you know, it fits, and it locks in. And then we've got a P07, and that one doesn't quite fit as well. It's probably, the screw's probably tensioned a little bit too much for it. And we've got a Glock here. Glock fits just fine. And even though the P07 doesn't fit right now, if I adjusted this screw, I could make it fit. It's a very adaptable holster. One of the great things about it is not only does it fit a bunch of different guns, it has this little lock right here. This is a lock that keeps the gun from falling out, and the way it works is when you grab the gun, and we all know, or we should know, when you grab a gun, this part of your finger right here should be right here, all the way up to the top, just like that, okay? Trigger finger straight, this part of your hand all the way up here. Okay, that's how you're supposed to grab the gun. And if you have a holster that encourages that, which this does, you don't have to do anything special to draw a gun out of this holster. All you've got to do is grab the gun like you're supposed to. You grab the gun, it comes right out. Look at that. So when I grab the gun like I'm supposed to, my finger's going to hit this. And I'm not going to do anything consciously to push this button. I'm just going to grab the gun. When I grab the gun, it comes out. This is a great system. When I intend for the gun to come out of the holster, the gun comes out of the holster. When I do not intend for the gun to come out of the holster, it does not. These are good holsters. They are made even better by Bianchi, who makes this version of it. It's a leather wrapped one. So you got the same holster inside here. Inside this leather, there is a Kydex shell. And it holds the gun and operates just exactly the same way as the other ones do. Okay, so it's got the little release here. When I grab the gun like I'm supposed to, look at that, it comes right out. And these draw quick. These are just as quick as on a draw as any race gun holster if you grab the gun like you're supposed to. If you screw up your draw and don't grab the gun like you're supposed to, anything's going to give you problems. But if you grab this gun like you're supposed to when you're pulling it out of this holster, it's as quick as any race holster you can buy. And this is a holster set up to be on your waist and to carry your gun every day. This is fantastic. This one's all beat to hell because this is what I carry every day with this little guy in there. So these things are awesome. I can't recommend these enough. This fits a whole bunch of guns. You know, here we got our M&P. Gee, look at that, it fits. And these also have a tension screw right here. This M&P is a little loose. You can just tighten this tension screw and it'll tighten it right up. Fits this Glock here. Look at that. And it's starting to, the Glock's sticking out of the end a little bit. A lot of the differences on these holsters, these particular ones, the Bianchis and the Safariland GLSs, is how long it is. They basically have different length ones for the subcompact, compact, full size, and the longer guns like a 17L or something like that. And then they have them that are narrow and wide based on, you know, certain, because it's grabbing the trigger guard right here. That's where it's grabbing it. So if you got a super fat trigger guard, they have to make the holster a little wider, or you got to put a little spacer in there. But these things are fantastic. Can't recommend them enough. I mean, 90% of the people that walk into the store that need a holster for a gun, one of these will fit it. And generally, the only time people don't want to buy these is, I don't know, I don't know why people don't want to buy these things. Most people do, but every once in a while somebody just has an issue with it. A lot of them just want, you know, something like this, you know, just leather. Or they want something cheap, you know, like a nylon Uncle Mike's. These aren't the cheapest things in the world. They're not the most expensive either. They're like 80 bucks. All of them are 80 bucks. The small ones, the big ones, they're all about the same price. And then when you get these, the plastic ones, I think they're about 20 bucks cheaper. I think they're 60 bucks, like $59.99 or something. But for, I consider that fairly reasonable. And they don't make these for lights. So if you have a gun that's got a light on it, you're out of luck. You can get I think Blackhawk. Yeah, Blackhawk makes something called an omnivore that instead of holding on to the gun, actually holds on to the light. So when you put your light on there, it holds on to the light. Those aren't too bad if you need something that holds a bunch of different guns and one particular light. But anyway, that's me ranting on holsters. Hopefully you learned something there. Hopefully that helps you out picking a holster. Don't ask me about inside the waistband holsters. I hate those things. But I love these. Hope you all have a wonderful day.